For all the latest news in North Central Washington, go to ncwlife.com or find us on Facebook. Got a news tip? Email us at news@ncwlife.com or call 888-2020.
Hi, and welcome to Life with Lisa Bradshaw. On the show today, in the studio, we have an award-winning teacher. She is the Guada STEM Educator of the Year. Mrs. Brown is here with us today. She's a 5th grade teacher at Lincoln Elementary. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
We also have Betsy Gomez, who's here also as from your 5th grade class. Thanks for being here. So tell me about your award that you won recently.
Sure. The Guada Association, the Greater Wenatchee Area Technology Alliance, chose me as one of the top 3 finalists for STEM Educator of the Year. My understanding is they were very inspired by all of the work that I've done with incorporating STEM and careers here in the Wenatchee Valley.
Well, I was telling Betsy before the show that just recently I even learned what STEM means. Not as recently as, like this show, but science, technology, engineering, math. When I was a student, we just had science and math. We didn't have technology and engineering, so that's a whole new concept. So what do you like about the STEM program in your classroom?
Well, something that I like about STEM is that we get to do projects with it, but we have to incorporate all of the like science, technology, engineering, and math all in one challenge. So it could be challenging sometimes, but it's also fun.
So you have to fit all of those concepts into one project.
Yeah.
So one thing that I'm really impressed by when reading all about you, Mrs. Brown, Tina Brown, is your ability to raise funds, which seems to be what is necessary for you to get the things done you want to do in your classroom. So talk with us a little bit about that.
Well, my passion in teaching is to expose kids to as many experiences as I can. And I like to have the students tell me what they're wanting to learn about. And so you can't necessarily follow a traditional curriculum when you do that. So through support of different grants, such as the Washington STEM grant, this year I received $5,000 specifically to incorporate careers in our valley. I've received grants from the North Central ESD for smaller projects such as solar panel integration, and just this coming June we're going to be taking kids to Pybus to learn how to cook in the community kitchen. I've received other grants from the Community Foundation for not only my classroom, but to incorporate school-wide events. The Every Child at the Pack grant has supported my students attending the opera this year. And I've also reached out not only to the Wenatchee Education Association, but also to our school PTA.
Now, when you say received, what you really mean is you spent a whole lot of time writing and applying and doing everything it takes to get a grant. I have a nonprofit, so grants are not for wimps. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. It's the hardest part about it is getting across what you want to do with your students and the passion that they have in maybe 300 words or 400 words. But grant writing is also my challenge. So seeking out those different organizations that may not even know of Wenatchee to begin with, but also to realize that kids in the 5th grade want these experiences just like those in middle school and high school. So it's also a goal of mine when I'm writing these grants in the back of my head thinking, we need people to understand that our elementary kids are craving this.
So Betsy, tell me about the program you guys did with the safety helmets and testing them at Mission Ridge. What was involved with that?
So we were learning about the human brain and the frontal lobe and all of the parts of it, and we had to. So we basically like grabbed the mannequin head, and we had to. Our challenge was to not smash the paintball while dropping it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then also you learned about snowshoeing technology.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even think about technology and snowshoeing. What's the connection?
Well, snowshoeing, I think that it involves technology because it's like the way of making them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that they function?
Yeah.
Because if they're too heavy or they aren't balanced, then they wouldn't be able to function properly.
So one of the things that a lot of people don't understand about the T in STEM is that technology just means any tool that helps you solve a problem.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean a computer. So what were some of the tools or the technology we used when we were building those snowshoes?
Well, we used like tape, string, sticks, and like some other stuff that we could find like just outside with the for the snowshoes.
So ultimately, did they work?
Yeah.
Good. So you were successful. So talk about the planned comprehensive career-connected experience called STEM Careers in Wenatchee.
Yes. Well, this was the ultimate project for my whole year. The Washington STEM grant provided me with $5,000 to not just take my classroom, but all 90 fifth graders at Lincoln Elementary. And so I planned 6 different events for students to interact not only with a STEM design challenge, but the careers. So the first one we did was we went to Wenatchee River Institute down at Barn Beach Reserve, where the students interacted with local biologists and field educators, and they learned about the different habitats and adaptations of animals. That in turn, we talked about how do humans adapt to the same environment and the same climate, which led to snowshoe developing. The students created their snowshoes, as Betsy said, and then I had snowshoes that I borrowed for 2 weeks so that the students can use real snowshoes on campus. Then we went to Mission Ridge to learn about snowmaking, all the different careers and jobs that are available up at Mission Ridge, along with the ski school, down to the mechanics that run the groomers, the individuals that work in the cafeteria. And that's where after every fifth grader had a ski lesson, which was paid for using grant funds, we tested their safety helmets up there. The students saw the opera from the Cinderella opera from the Seattle Opera Company through Every Child at the Pack, and we learned about the different jobs in theater. Then we recently went to Pangbourne Airport, which was brand new for Pangbourne as well. Students there interacted with several local businesses such as Six Shooter and Century Aviation, where they learned about plane restoration and parachutes. We also worked with Executive Flight, and their design challenge there was to create styrofoam airplanes. Just this week, we went to Pybus to learn about careers in agriculture and the importance of local food, and we talked about a little-known technology in agriculture known as honeybees and how we can support the honeybees. And later this month, we're going to finish off by attending the Technology Showcase on May 13th, where the students will interact with several community members that are affiliated with GWADA and present their robotic and STEM projects to them.
Wow, you must be busy in her classroom.
Yeah.
Yes. So you do realize you have a special teacher. So when you go on to 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, college, after that you talked about, before we did the show, you talked about wanting to go to college.
Yeah.
So what lessons do you think you'll take with you that you've learned from Mrs. Brown that you'll never ever forget?
So I like this year that we're doing a lot of STEM, so maybe in middle school or high school I might want to take a STEM class because it seems fun and it might be something I want to do.
You're good at the math, science, technology, all those things that go into it?
Yeah.
Is that your favorite? Can you pick a favorite out of those?
I think science.
Science. Well, thank you for being here. You did a really good job.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. You're doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
It's really nice to have you here. Thank you. We'll be back in just a moment.
Is your vehicle in need of a quick oil change or tune-up before hitting the road this summer? Stop by Quick Lube and Tune, the home of the good guys at 610 South Wenatchee Avenue.
There are over 2 billion school-aged individuals living in the world today. That's more young people than any other time in human history. And it's this generation's creativity, their actions, their art, their poetry, their protests, their questions, their code, their dreams. It's this generation's ideas that will define the future of our world. One well-articulated idea can reach and inspire millions. That's why TED's Youth and Education Initiative, TED-Ed, has created a program that's dedicated to sparking and celebrating the best ideas of young people around the world.
The essence of TED-Ed was to create more confident individuals.
It was our club. It was run by us and it was for us.
The program is called TED-Ed Clubs. It supports students in identifying their passions, learning public speaking skills, connecting with a global network of classrooms, and sharing student ideas in the form of short, TED-style talks. Here's how it works. Participating students and teachers gain access to a free and flexible curriculum they can use to start a TED-Ed club at their school. Each suggested meeting uses TED Talks to help students engage in critical thinking exercises and gain invaluable presentation skills. In the final meeting, students are invited to give their own TED Talk, and if they record their talk, they can upload it to TED-Ed's award-winning platform, where it can be referenced on a resume, a college application, and shared with participating clubs around the world. Over 2 billion young people empowered and encouraged to share their ideas. Imagine that future and bring TED-Ed clubs to your community today.
Hi, Logan. Thanks for being here all the way from New York City.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
It's been a while since we've talked. I first met you when you came through town filming Darius Goes West, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. You're coming to us from the TED-Ed offices in New York City.
Yeah, that's right. I'm at most people know it as TED Talks or TED Conferences, and I direct the education branch here, which is called TED-Ed.
Well, just to let people know a little bit about you, you graduated magna cum laude from University of Georgia with a degree in special education. Then you received your master's degree in technology innovation education from Harvard Graduate School of Education. And that led you to a fellow, well, you were a fellow for TED, and that led you to where you are now.
That's right. I was a teacher turned filmmaker turned whatever I am now.
It's a winding road to success. So talk about TED-Ed, since, like you said, most people are very familiar with TED Talks. What is TED-Ed, and what is your involvement in it?
Sure. So it's the education branch of TED Conferences. Its mission is to spark and celebrate the ideas of teachers and students around the world. It's about a 15-person team. I'm the director of that team. And we make animated videos that feature teachers' best lessons. We publish 3 of those a week, and they're viewed by over 1 million learners every day.
Wow.
And most recently, we launched a new program that's dedicated to celebrating student ideas, which is called TED-Ed Clubs. And basically, it teaches students how to give TED Talks, but it doesn't just give them the skills, it also gives them the opportunity and sort of incentive to share their ideas with the world. So we share we have thousands of clubs happening in over 130 countries around the world. These are students giving TED Talks, and then we publish their talks on our channels, and we actually invite the most compelling speakers to come to New York and give another version of their talk, which we record professionally. And the TED conference was last week, and we even invited a couple of TED Club speakers to speak at the main conference in Vancouver. So it's a pretty exciting program.
And I just had someone in the studio, Mrs. Brown. She's a teacher here, 5th grade teacher, who just won the STEM Educator of the Year award. And she was talking about technology and education in the classroom and exposure, just exposing them to as much as they can. She's a champion grant writer, so she exposes them to as much as she can right here. And the idea of the TED-Ed Club is to expose children, students, on a much bigger scale.
Yeah,
let them be involved.
Congratulations to Mrs. Brown, first of all. Yeah, I think you're right. Students are growing up in a pretty different world than we did, for example. Not even 10, not even 15 years ago, uh, your idea could not sort of reach beyond your community, which is great. I got nothing against community ideas, but we live in a world now where your one great idea from reaching millions of people with the power of the, internet and the rapidly interconnecting world. So, one way I like to think about it is having been a teacher, if you tell your students that you're the only person that's going to see their final project, if they're great students, they'll do a good job. If they love the topic, they'll do a good job. If they care about your opinion, they'll do a good job. But if you tell students that the mayor is going to see the project, they're going to do backflips, working really hard because they know their voice is being valued. Well, online, and in particular TED Ed online, sort of represents all the mayors, proverbially speaking. Basically, we're committed to helping a student's idea spread further than it ever would, and we're also committed to helping them, express it giving them tools to express it in a compelling way in the first place.
In my research for our interview, I was reading some of the comments from TED Ed Club participants saying how they've watched the TED Talks, the adult talks. They've been inspired by different people over the years, and to think that they can actually participate in that way. What was the conference like for you to see that brought to fruition for some of these students?
Well, the student that just spoke at the TED conference last week elicited a massive stadium-wide standing ovation.
That's amazing.
I mean, I think for her, that was pretty awesome. For my team, we were like the ultimate cheerleaders in the back row. She just gave a really subtle but brilliant talk about music and her relationship with music as she's grown up, her and become a musician, as well as how it relates to physics and how it helps her understand her world. It was a very poetic talk. We had another student whose talk recently went on TED.com, which is, of course, our biggest sort of channel that we share. I believe it's already been viewed 700,000 times,
wow.
Close to that, not that. And he has a patent pending process
wow.
for creating clean styrofoam. And he was one of the ones who came to the office and spoke. But I mean, these are, over 100,000 kids from over 130 countries sharing their ideas, and the program appears to double every year. So we predict twice as much by the end of 2017. And it starts to get really cool when you start thinking about, in a way, the first ever sort of ubiquitous platform for student ideas and the opportunity that may unlock for the participating students.
Well, let's bring that back to you, Logan, because like I said in the beginning of the show, when I met you, you were a trial and error filmmaker. I remember we talked about the equipment and you were so worried about every detail, and someone told you, even if you use a little camera and a Walkman or something, as long as there's heart to the story, it'll be told. So you weren't even a filmmaker. And talk about that journey, just so people watching, especially students who will be watching Betsy, she was a fifth grader who was on the show earlier with Mrs. Brown. Their whole class is going to watch it, perhaps their school. Understanding the path to success, that when you started out, you thought you'd be a teacher, and then how that evolved just for you specifically.
Yeah. I mean, so I was a high school special education teacher, and I was very lucky to have a pretty amazing person in my life named Darius Weems, whom I'd known since he was 5 years old. He was a camper at a summer camp that I was a counselor at. It was a camp for kids with disabilities, and he had Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which is a fatal degenerative disease that ultimately affects every muscle in the body. Like I said, Darius was both my camper and my friend. I'd known him since he was 5, and when he was 15, when I was a teacher, I ended up leaving the classroom to direct a documentary that he was the star and subject of. The quick version of the plot was we took a cross-country road trip to try and get his wheelchair customized on MTV's then hit show Pimp My Ride. And of course, we were also intent on raising funds and awareness for his disease, and testing wheelchair accessibility across the country. It was a nonprofit film. And that 3-week road trip turned into a successful documentary. It ended up winning over 25 film festival awards, and it was on Netflix and featured in national media. And it actually, most importantly, ended up raising over $2.5 million for DMD research. The most recent update is both tragic, but also exciting. Darius Weems actually passed away this last October, but not before having helped fund the first FDA-approved treatment for DMD in history. In fact, that was approved 3 weeks before he passed away, and he had funded the trial 7 years earlier, the original trial for that treatment. To be clear, it's not a cure; it's just a treatment. So there's still a lot of work to be done, but he was thrilled to have been able to play a role in helping extend people's lives who have this disease.
When we come back, I'm going to go to break here. When we come back, I'm going to show a trailer for Darius Goes West, the film, which is how you and I met. You were on my radio show years ago as you guys were passing through town, visiting schools and middle schools across the country. I'm so grateful to have met you and Darius and to have you here today. We'll be back in just a moment.
Get the fastest internet available in North Central Washington by switching to LocalTel and get speeds up to 1,000 meg. Call 888-8888 today or go online to localtel.net.
At age 15, Darius left his hometown for the first time in his life. The 11 of us piled into an RV and set a course for California. Our goal was to get Darius's wheelchair customized on MTV's Pimp My Ride. We tested wheelchair accessibility and celebrated Darius's life along the way. When we started, we knew nothing about filmmaking, nothing about fundraising, and nothing about community building. To date, our film has won 28 film festival awards. We've raised nearly $2 million for Darius's disease, and by empowering the supporters we've met along the way, our movie has become a nationwide movement. We've traveled hundreds of thousands of miles, visited over 40 states, attended over 500 supporter-organized screenings. We have a day named after us in 5 cities. We have a DVD in every middle school and high school in the country. And on September 27th, Darius's 20th birthday, MTV will broadcast our film to over 80 million homes.
What's up, man?
Darius, you are fine.
This is Darius, man!
Meant to see a video made by 2 TED Fellows.
My name is Darius Weems, and I was born with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. I had never seen the ocean. I had never seen a mountain. At age 15, I left home with 11 of my friends, and we're still on the road.
Filmmaker Logan, Smalley, and Darius Weems.
So Logan, we were just talking about TED Ed before the break, and as well as Darius Goes West and how that led you to your career at TED Ed. Tell us what's happening now, the TED Ed Club. How do people get involved?
Yeah, so it's actually a 100% free program. You just go to teded.com and you click the club's link, and you have to apply. A student can start a club. A teacher can also start a club. And it's usually about 20 students per club. It can go up to 50, and some of them are smaller than 20. But it's about 13 meetings, and each meeting is designed to help students find their passions, identify their ideas, and learn presentation skills on how to present those ideas in compelling ways. And like I said, over 100,000 students around the world have done it. It seems to provide a transformative experience, especially that exciting day when the talk goes online and is shared by TED Ed.
And so what is it what they can expect? So you said there's classes. Are those through the internet, obviously?
Yeah, they're meetings. It's a free and flexible program. So there's 13 meetings. Some people do it in 13 weeks. Some people do it in 13 days.
Right.
Some people kind of jam it across 3 days. But each meeting, like meeting number 1, what's your passion? Meeting number 2, what makes a great idea great? And they analyze TED Talks. And meeting number 3 is what's your big idea? And then in the remaining meetings, you pursue that idea that you declared and you learn presentation skills, research skills, etc. And then the final meeting, you give your TED Talk.
Well, I was mentioning earlier how we met when you came through town, and I'm just so excited for you and all the things that you're doing in your life, and that you're there at TED Ed in New York City, TED. And also about Darius, I'm sorry to know that he passed away in October. I'm thrilled to know that he's been part of a trial, or his funds helped fund that. DariusGoesWest.org is where you can go to watch the movie. I think the movie's timeless. For as long as there's not a cure, the movie is valuable beyond any other reason for watching it, but for that reason alone.
It's a hero's journey. It's just a good road trip film that has a real, genuine sense of purpose.
I was thinking too about how much you and your friends over the years, I'm sure, greatly enriched his life. He lived to be 27. Is that right? And that's much longer than anyone expected.
Yeah, late teens and early 20s is the average sort of mortality rate for kids with DMD. And you're right. I mean, he enriched our lives as much as we enriched his, that's for sure. But he did have an incredible sense of purpose, traveling around to schools, meeting you, meeting your community, and thousands more around the country, and helping make a difference with this disease every stop of the way.
Well, again, the website is teded.com for TED Clubs if you want to sign up for TED Ed Clubs. And then the website to watch Darius Goes West is dariuswest.org. Thanks for being here, Logan. Always nice to talk to you.
Thank you, Lisa. Great to see you again.
Take care. You too.
For all the latest news in North Central Washington, go to ncwlife.com or find us on Facebook. Got a news tip? Email us at news@ncwlife.com or call 888-2020.